If you hear the tremor in my voice, it's because I'm on stage with two liars. Two lawyers. So, I might get sued for whatever I say wrong. So thank you, Celeste. Thank you, Jamaica, for doing this with me. I'm going to ask the first question. How did you pivot from law to literature? You were tired of writing briefs, instead of writing... Ladies first.
I actually think, first of all, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the warm, beautiful welcome I've received. It was more than I could have hoped for. For me, I think in truth, I would say the call to letters preceded the call to law. I always wanted to be a writer. From like a little girl, I would write and illustrate my own books. But at the time I grew up in Trinidad, writer, what is that? I couldn't tell my mother I wanted to be a writer. I had to be something else, doctor, lawyer, engineer. I'm sure some of this resonates, yes. So I did what my parents wanted me to do. And after 10 years of doing that, I said, okay, now I will do what I want to do. Yeah, so I made the transition to doing my MFA in Boston, and then that's how Pleasant View was born.
Thank you. So, Garrick.
Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the very warm welcome and the whoops and everything. Thank you. So my story is similar to hers. I call myself an accidental lawyer because the first jam I wrote in SS2, which is year 5, I didn't know I wanted to be a lawyer. Actually, I was actually put medicine. So you can see how my trajectory just changed. And even when I finished law school, I didn't actually want to practice law. Because I was like, let me just come to Lagos and just do one. I didn't know what I wanted to do. But writing, just like Celeste said, for me, I think, looking back in my life now, I say this thing, it has always been there. I remember the jam I wrote to take when I put law. It was because there was really nothing else. It was history, it was mass comm. I didn't want to become a journalist. It was like, gosh, there was really nothing. I know I wanted to do something in the arts, vaguely, but as of that time, Nollywood wasn't a thing. So, you had all this, the first set of Nollywood people, there was many of them graduated from Uniport. I grew up in Port Harcourt. Many of them, so Ejike Asig, all those people, I knew I wanted to do something, but I knew I didn't want to act, so it was just...
So when did the penny drop?
I think it has always been there. I always say the first things I did were comics. So I did comics as a 7-year-old, as a kid. I remember I did it through... I remember, like, in secondary school, people come to my back of my notebooks. I'll do comics, or I'll do some scribbles, and other people come and look at and all that. So I was telling stories way back. Then the writing has been a journey. One of the first things I wrote was poetry. It was terrible poetry. Thankfully, it doesn't exist anymore. Nobody will see it. Then eventually, I wrote something. Yeah.
So when I last said I should come and moderate between Celeste and Garrick, I was like, why? But I read the first stories and I was just like, okay, now these are my cousins. They write about sex, about drugs, about violence, all the good stuff. But reading the stories, I was thinking about Thomas Hobbes, who said that the human condition is solitary, is poor, is brutish, is short. People die a lot in your stories.
I feel like you're looking at me only. I don't feel like you're looking at him at all. You're looking at me.
Everything I'm saying is for both of you. In your first story, somebody dies. 2 people are dying, and one says, "I'm the one who wishes to die." Like she's saying, "I want to die more than you." It's my die, not your die yet. Where does it come from? This whole thing about letting people expire on the page.
It comes from real life. People expire in real life all the time, But I feel like a thought that I always have in the back of my mind ever since I started writing seriously was what people expect from women writers. I think I was told when I started my MFA program that people expect us to write what they call kitchen lit or kitchen fiction, right? A certain type of subject matter. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to take on gritty subjects. I don't know how you could live in Trinidad right now, and I don't know how I could, in good conscience, live in Trinidad and not take on the grittiness that is contemporary Trinidad, which involves a lot of death. You know, we have I think it's the 6th highest murder rate in the world.
Not Jamaica.
No, actually. So it's just, you know, my whole thing is just to try to be authentic and to authentically represent the time in which I'm writing.
So she thinks I'm just accusing her of being a killer. But if you read Gary's book, Gary is not just a killer, he's a serial killer. He kills so many characters. When there's nobody else to kill, he kills a man's manhood. I'm not lying. The first line is, my equipment has stopped to work. And he wasn't talking about his generator or car battery. So for you, you're writing about Nigeria, you're writing about Port Harcourt. You know, I mean, some of the places you mentioned, I know, but how is it that these things are happening in those areas and they don't make the news, basically?
So it makes the news, you know, but news is regionalized somewhat, and you know, in Nigeria, like most of the news you get is like Lagos-centric and all that. But down south, you know, we hear the news, we know what's up. Yeah, and regarding the killing point, I think at least 2 reasons I can think of right now. The first is that's life, you know, life and death happens to everyone, and I mean, we're all gonna die, you know, as you know, that's the truth. The second thing, and which is the more important thing for me, is I use the deaths as a tool for the stories. So if a death is going to make the story better, make it more memorable, I will kill as many people as possible. You know, I have no bones. I make no bones about it. I'm not going to apologize.
I told you.
You know, so the question is, will the death, you know, it's just like cooking and seasoning. Will this, when you drop this thing, will it change the taste, you know, and like make people like, and make people never forget it? Yes. So I'll do that, and I'll continue doing that.
So, I mean, I've killed many characters in my time. But when I saw the first death in your book, you know, I actually had a lump in my throat. But somebody just sent me a message.
You know cry?
Yeah?
You know cry?
No. I be hard man. So somebody sent me a message saying to me that somebody at the back is saying that Tony Khan lies too much, that this is not true. So I'm going to ask Celeste to read first, and then I'll ask Garrick to read. Then we can see whether I'm lying or not. I can see you there. Okay, to get behind. You see who I'm talking to. Thank you. Please go ahead, Celeste.
Nobody dies in this section. Nobody dies in this section. All right. Where should I read from? Okay, maybe here. This little bit I'm going to read is from, I think this is the second story, White Envelope. I'm not even going to tell you, I'm jumping into the middle. I'm not going to tell you what happens before or after, because you can go and read, you can go and get the book after. I sit down on Miss Ivy couch, and almost right away, my thighs start sweating till they glue down on the clear plastic that covering the cushions. While Miss Ivy knocking pan and kettle in the little makeshift kitchen, I take in the whole place. I've never been in one of these back house apartments before. Miss Ivy have it neat and clean, but it's just one room, only a wobbly fiberboard screen blocking off she jail-style bed. And she does share a toilet with Mr. Winston, the old man living next door. Through the tin paneling, I hear in his TV on that 7-day Adventist program. I wonder if he might hear what I telling Miss Ivy, but I have worse things to worry about. If I don't change Mr. H mind by Mountain, I might be making baby in one of these cardboard box apartments. Nah, no Jesus, not my child, not my half Syrian child. Growing up in Pleasant View hard enough if you're poor and black, but it was if you're light skinned and have good hair. Then everybody knows some high-collar man that take your mother for her ass, and that you have a fine, respectable daddy who don't want you. You come like a double joke. No, not my child. Miss Ivy reached back now with the deck of cards she does use to see the future. She rested down on the wobbly center table between us. Give me the full story, she say, and don't afraid to call name. I start talking, and then I start crying, but the old lady just sit down there, stone-faced, sipping she orange peel tea. She never once blink, and when I done explaining, it's me who have to drop my gaze. What it is you really want, my child? She asked. How you mean, Miss Ivy? I stutter. God bless me with a child, and a child father who could take we out of Pleasant View. I have a chance for a proper family. I want my family, Miss Ivy. Resting down her mug, she say, Gail Dudu, God will never bless you with a next woman husband. And I could put my head on a block. He ain't bless you with Mr. H. How you could say that, Miss Ivy? You ain't even watched the cards yet and you're talking so negative. I don't have to watch the cards to tell you about Mr. H. I done cleaned that man toilet for 20 years. It have nothing I don't know about he. That's why I could tell you, straight to your face, the man is a womanizer. Don't fool yourself. He is not the worst, the first.
I wanted to hear Celeste read because, reading the book, I could hear the Creole, the patois, but then when you read it, it sounds English. It's like somebody who writes very good pidgin. You know he's writing pidgin, but you know what he's saying. So I wanted to hear, the little of that of the vernacular that comes across. So Mr. H is a rich man who wants to be a politician in the book, and then this happens. In your stories, right, you don't judge. That is why you're not a magistrate yet. Because you just present the stories and then say, why? Why don't you, kind of take sides, or not side, not moderate the pain, yes.
I think that's an excellent observation. I think it means you're a very sensitive reader, that you picked up. Yes, that. Sensitive reader, just sensitive. Which one?
But.
Yeah, no, I don't feel like it's my job to judge the characters. I think my goal is to present them as humanely as I can, and it is really for the reader to judge. And the whole premise of the book is my first audience I had in mind was my people, right? Trinidadians. And so the question I was posing is, this is how it is. This is how we are. Is this how we want to continue? You decide. You decide,
So in the forward, I think, somebody mentioned the V.S. Naipaul. But I was thinking of Samuel Selvon. So between these two, who would you say is your literary godfather?
Naipaul.
Okay. Okay.
You disagree?
Yeah, so somebody mentioned Miguel Street, I understand. But anyway, let me not go there. Second, do you know Dante Cat?
Yes.
Do you read her?
I've read a couple of her books, yes.
I get the sense, even though she talks about immigration and then a new life in the West, you talk about the moment before takeoff, right? So do you see any similarities between what she does and what you do?
Absolutely not. Nobody has ever made that comparison before, and I don't see it. I feel that she's a very different writer. Maybe you're talking about subject matter, but I just feel like the whole tone,
It's different.
the feel of her writing is a bit different to mine. I think that mine is a bit more gritty, and hers more plain down and smooth.
Safe.
Possibly, yes.
All right, cool. Let's listen to Mr. Garrick. Before you start, so we know that when it comes to Nigerian literature, Lagos is king. You know, this guy wants to bring Port Harcourt into the mix, and like, Port Harcourt is one hard place. He tried, but it did not work. I am the moderator, so let's hear you.
I'm reading from Desperado, the 11th story, and just for context, it's basically a conversation. The story is like it's just a series of conversations between a man and his ex-wife, and so that's the context. So he calls her up, so okay. You skip hello, go straight to the point. Don't marry Henry. She recognizes your voice immediately, but catching her throat, asks, Kwashi? You think it's a good sign that she still calls you Kwashi. She usually called your full name, Tukwashi, when she was upset with you, which was plenty. Yeah, it's me, you say. It's past midnight. You woke me. What do you want? I told you, don't marry Henry. Wait, are you drunk again? Are you changing the topic again? You can almost see her smile. What do you think you're doing? I'm trying to stop you from marrying Henry. Pay attention. Now I know you're drunk, and I can hear loud music in the background. You're probably in a club, aren't you? No, I'm not in the club. I'm in the club's car park. You say I'm drunk. I say I'm mellow. Let's agree to disagree, and let's focus on the point of this call. She sighs. Why are you doing this? Because I have a phone, and because I can. You try to suppress a giggle, but a burp escapes. Seriously, why? Because I need to do this. You know I'm still in love with you. She snorts. Nothing has hurt me as much as your so-called love. Just so you know, right now your love is perfectly useless. Touché. Okay, how about your love? You should be good for something. You still love me. I know that. Stop. You close your eyes and exhale. I say, please give me some time to get my shit together. And I'll be back, a new man, and we'll get married. We were married before, it didn't work out, remember? Remember what they say about trying again and again after you failed the first time? Let's prove we're not quitters. That's the end.
So let me tell you guys a secret. Chimika does not drink. He doesn't smoke. I hear when he looks at women, he doesn't even have lust in his mind. Unlike some people I know over there. But when you read his book, I mean, there's so much casual sex going on. There are marriages breaking. Is it you trying to live out in a vicarious way your bad boyness without doing it in the real life?
No, it's just me telling stories. Like, it's, the thing with stories is like, bad people, in quotes, are more interesting, easier to write. They're more fascinating. So my life is pretty boring, but maybe I think you have a point. Maybe I'm living vicariously through the bad people. but the truth is, honestly, I've lived an interesting life, and it's that's most of it is like way in the past, So
you don't drink.
I stopped drinking a while ago.
You don't smoke.
Stop smoking a
you
while
don't.
ago. just like everybody else. Everybody gets to that.
So
you're making it sound like
where's the interesting thing there? Golf. So like what another lie he tells is that he's bad at giving titles to his stories. But I've read so many books, and the opening line of almost all his stories are kick-ass. They just start with something that grabs you from the get-go. So I'm going to ask, do you get these titles before the stories come? The opening line before the story comes, or you get the opening line after you've written the story? Because I want to learn from the master.
So, I beg, watch me small, I beg. So, the titles were gotten from songs. So what I did, I use music to write this collection. So what I did, maybe for each story, I have the kernel of an idea in my head. I'll listen to songs. Sometimes it's maybe 2 songs. Sometimes it's 4 or 5, whatever. Then at the end of the day, when I finish, the song that most encapsulated the story, or I'll now choose that. So that part I read it's Desperado from the Eagles. It's an old band, but that part I read was inspired by Drake, Marvin's Room. If you know the song, that's whole. For people who don't know, that song is some Drake calling his ex-girlfriend and telling her to leave. The man she's with, and she's like, what's wrong with you? So that is Marvin's Room. That just inspired that. So that's how it is.
I'm actually talking about the opening lines to yours, not the titles.
The opening lines are not connected. They're not really connected to the titles.
Yes. How do you come up with them? Before the stories come, or after you've done the stories?
So in terms of craft, it's you're trying to catch people early in the story. So in terms of writing, they'll tell you, if you read, they'll say, look,
nice book.
Try and catch people early so that, and keep their interest. So it's like a what's it called? A trick. One of those things you do, catch people early. Yeah. Especially if you're unknown. If, for example, if you're a big writer, you don't really need to catch people early because people know, people can trust you because, this person's story is going to be good. But if you're kind of unknown and you haven't written anything, published anything in 10 years, right, you need to catch people early. And
Thank you. There's a part of Pleasant View, I think the first story, where, which also takes me back to this, you not being judgmental. So 2 guys decide to escape from the prison. One says, "Oh, I'm a very good swimmer," The other one says, "Okay, I'm a very good swimmer," and they start swimming, and then we discover how good they are. And once the second one is caught, the one who's escaping, who's making good time, says, "Better him than me," And I'm like, that's harsh, man. That's hard. He didn't even look back. He's like, "Okay, I'm heading out." So then he gets there, and it's funny how he gets there and everything falls apart, right? And you say all this is, you said all this is fiction or all this is not fiction?
I personally believe fiction is never really interested unless it draws from nonfiction, right?
Yeah.
And I could tell you everything that happens in this book has happened to somebody. Maybe not the same people and the same place and the order in which I've put it. But yeah.
It's the intricacy of the plotting that, makes, you just can't make this up. It has to come from somewhere, then you embellish it. Yeah. So.
No, but if you Google it, you will find there was a guy who escaped from jail in Trinidad, from the prison island, and he did it for the love of a Colombian prostitute. And I just thought that was so romantic that I was inspired by it, and I kind of, took the story and made it my own.
So, you're going to read again, I'm going to read again, but before you read, there's a very visual element to your stories. The best part in yours is where I think the guy gets a letter that shocks him and he says, he looks at it as if he just got glaucoma. You remember that part?
In this first story?
No, I think towards the end. Like he got it and then, so, like, you know how you like, you've been fired. Huh? So, and you could just see it happen, So, is this folk speech, is it how people talk in Trinidad? Are they like, everyone sounds smart. Yeah.
Well, I'll put it this way. I feel like every Trinidadian is a born storyteller. The way if we're not being self-conscious and we're just talking to you and we're relating a story, it will be very colorful. There'll be you see I'm doing it right now. There'll be lots of hand movements. There'll be lots of, metaphors and similes. So we're natural born storytellers. And to me, it's just a matter of taking that gift that I have as a Trinidadian and dressing it up.
The part in America.
Yes,
with
6 months.
Luther, yeah?
Luther, yeah.
And then he's telling the guy, if you're under 31, you can close your ears. And he says, oh, the girl fat, I don't like her. He said, no, it's okay, she's okay. He said, no. I want to sleep, and when the girl rolls over and puts her legs on me, I don't want to wake up dead. And I thought that was fantastic. So you're a woman, you're getting into the mind of dangerous men, How did you do that?
I think as a woman, as a Caribbean woman of a certain age, I've met a lot of dangerous men in my life. I've met a lot of dangerous men.
Oh, shit.
I haven't met any African dangerous men yet.
You haven't
No,
yet?
no,
Okay.
very nice people, all of them.
So, Gary, why did you decide to, set your stories in Port Harcourt? I know you've been living in Lagos. We've been feeding you in Lagos, gave you a good job, but you decided to. Like me, as a good immigrant, I live in Lagos. I wrote about Lagos. Lagos is my, playground. Why are you going to Port Harcourt?
Because it's where I'm from, and I think we've had.
I have a town too now.
But you did. I think you did. What's it called in your last book, Carnival City? The guys came from Asaba now.
Just 2 pages.
But there was the Asaba link. But obviously, like Nigeria is bigger than Lagos. And there's enough Lagos stories, and there will always be more Lagos stories. I wanted to put my city on sort of like just put it there on the map. There'll be people after me. There's Miracle, who is also from Port Harcourt and all that. I want more people to write. Then I was also very deliberate with the names. So it was most of the names, 90% of the names were Niger Delta names. I just wanted people to know that look, there's more from. Nigeria is very big. Nigeria is a very complex. There are many tribes here and all that. Just to show that look. It's more than Igbo outside Yoruba, So that's it basically.
Do you think it worked?
I hope it did. I hope it did. If it makes people curious about Port Harcourt, if it makes people, if people have come to me and said, I want to go to Port Harcourt and all that. I've never been to Port Harcourt and I want to go there. In my mind, I'm like, it's not like I wrote it or it's that kind of thing. Just if you go to Port Harcourt, anything you see, take it like that. But it's you can write about a place and romanticize it in a way, and the reality is more nuanced. The reality of Port Harcourt is more. But if whoever wants to go to Port Harcourt shall go and
don't go to the water line.
Yeah, just go and and have fun. Yeah.
Okay, there's a musician in Nigeria. He's called Burna Boy. I'm not sure if you know him.
Who's that?
Okay.
I know Burna Boy.
He has a song that young people like to sing. That last, everybody go chop. Yes. Bros, tell me, how many times do you chop breakfast? Because your book could have been called A Breakfast People Playlist.
Well, we thank God for life. we thank God for life. Let's just put it like that. You know, the thing with life, like if you get to, like Celeste said, if you're a man of a certain age, or if you're a person of a certain age, right, you'll see things. You know, you would have chopped breakfast, and you know, honestly, too, if you check yourself, you made other people chop breakfast too. So it's a circle of life. It goes round. You know. So that's it basically. But heartbreak is something that we can all relate with, you know, and you know, it's universal. That's why, you know, we can, you know, years after Shakespeare, for example, for one example, wrote Romeo and Juliet and all his, you know, stories, you can relate to it. Even if you're a child in Africa, you can relate to like loving someone and losing someone and having heartbreak and all that, you know. So I think themes are relatable. It doesn't really matter who is serving the breakfast, you know. So far it's the story and it's entertainment, you know. Just write it like that, you know.
Thank you. So there's a part of your book where a boy describes her mother as someone who wears frowns, like medals of honor. That was an auntie you don't like, Abi? From your life.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it was
yeah.
well, not like I don't like her.
I know things.
She was like, you know, those kind of people who were very, like, you know, in her defense, you know, I mean, it's understandable, right? You know, but I mean, she had a
hard life.
A hard life and all that, and a troubled marriage and all that. But she was like, she had this temper, you know, and she could shout down the whole street, and you know, she was always, you know, like, you know, she would always do it, and after a while, you know, so we, you know how it is, we had fallen out when I was younger, but after a while, I realized that it was part of her act, you know. She would use it as a, you know, she would use it sometimes as a, you know, when she wants to intimidate you, you know, and she's doing it. There's a bit of mischief behind it, you know. She would just shout and everything, you know, and you know, we're cool now, you know. So when she at one point when she started shouting at me, I would just start laughing, you know. So you know.
All right. So let's you read, and then you will read, and I have a question for two of you, which will take you back to when you were 4. But just read first.
I'm reading this for, I can't remember her name, but she keeps asking me to read from this story, Santi Manatee. Now, y'all, I cannot sing, but if you all help me, I will actually sing a piece of this thing for you all, if you all clap. So Santi Manatee is, I should say, it is, well, if you all know what a rap battle is in the US, Santi Manatee is kind of like a calypso battle, where one person will say something, he will sing a chorus, and it has a set melody. So he'll sing his verse, and then he will always end the verse in a way to poke fun at his opponent. And the crowd will respond by singing, Santi Manatee. That's what they'll say, right? That's the chorus. And then the other person will sing his verse, poking back fun at the first person. And then it's always, the chorus is always, Santi Manatee, like that. So at this wake, this is a wake for somebody who has died. And there's this Calypsonian there named Winston. And I've only ever done this once before, but because you all have been so nice to me here, I'm going to do it today. Winston sat on a chair facing the crowd, his back to the all-fours tables. He removed his fedora and rested it on the chair next to him. Under the street lamp, his bald head shone like a dog's balls in moonlight. Miss Ivy guessed that's what he wanted, to be seen, not in shadow, as he delivered the song he'd been practicing in the toilet. She was surprised when, instead of Sinatra, Winston began strumming the familiar local chords of an extempo. Help me, he encouraged the crowd, and they joined in, clapping and singing. Pa-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Pa-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Is a real shame and a tragedy what happened in this small community. Sad to see a big businessman get tied up with that tricky young woman. Although she know the man was married, she push up to make a baby for he. When she couldn't get he money as planned, she abort, then shoot the innocent man. Santi Manite.
Sorry, please, technical. This is going to go off, power off in 60 seconds. I don't know how that works, so. Okay, thank you. That was amazing. I mean, Winston with his head shining like, what? No, that's not what she said. We don't say such things here. And she has lots of those in her book. It's crazy. Gary, please, give us yours. And then we'll take questions from the audience. But I have one question before we go to the audience, yeah.
Okay, so this wasn't the plan. The plan was I was going to read only one part. Now he has now told me to read two, and he has even told me where to read from, the story to read from.
I did not. I suggested.
But anyway, so this is actually the first time I'm reading this part of the story. So the story is in the city. It's so for context, just for background. It's set in a waterside, a fictional waterside in Port Harcourt, and some policemen they're looking for a boy, and they catch another boy. Just typical everyday life in Nigeria, you know. So. And sorry, okay, and okay, so let me start. This is not the boy now. The man who said this was nursing his nose gingerly, like it hurt. There were two other men with him, and they sat in a beat-up bus, cradling rifles, brooding, foreboding. The man who arrested Godson said, "I know, sir. Sometimes you set trap for elephant, but it catch antelope." The men laughed like it was some inside joke, which Godson wasn't part of. They made him sit on the ground, pray in the middle of the wolf pack, while they surrounded him and backed rapid-fire questions. "Oya, identify yourself. Who are you? Your name is Godson. Godson who? Where's your ID? You mean you don't have ID? I think he's a militant. You want to be the next do boy, abi? No, he have soft face. Are you a drug boy or Yahoo boy?" One of the men leaned over and burrowed through Godson's pockets. "How much you get? Where's your ATM card?" He unearthed Godson's phone, loose change, and keys. Son-nosed man asked, "Olotu, how much is there?" Olotu counted quickly and spat his disappointment. "450, boss." Son-nosed man frowned like there was something bitter in his mouth and declared, "This is not antelope. This is not lizard." He shrugged and philosophized. "Anyhow, we must still eat." Olotu and the other man laughed, but it was hollow, mirthless. The man who arrested Godson didn't laugh, but stared dolefully at his gaping shoe, which he had stopped to pick up on the way. Then, his face lit up as an idea came to him. He took a step towards Godson and ordered, "Off your shoe." Then, Olotu's sudden slap stung and made Godson's eye water. It was unnecessary because he was already taking off his Nikes. The man snatched them from his hand and tried one on. It looked big for him, but the man's satisfied smile confirmed that size didn't matter. Son-nosed man said, "Let's go. Leave this man. Bad market." Olotu folded the money and put it in the flap pocket of his shirt. They stepped away from him. Godson began to hope. All he wanted now was to return home, cry in the dark till he fell asleep. "Wait," open his phone. Because they saw that his fear suddenly leapt to terror, because he initially refused to tell them the password for his phone, because he begged them instead for the first time that night, they forced the password from him, but only after breaking 2 of his teeth and splitting his lip in 3 places with the butt of a rifle. It was the man who arrested Godson who held the phone and searched it. Eventually, he got to Godson's videos. They were mainly porn clips, but they were all of a peculiar category. His mouth fell open. "You are a gay? Hey!" That was when Godson knew he wasn't going home tonight.
Funny enough, I suggested that he read it. I didn't suggest to Celeste, but there are 2 stories that are quite similar. In the story about the girl that got pregnant and stuff, when she has a miscarriage, Winston drives her to the hospital. There's blood everywhere. But when it's time to publicly celebrate celebrate the passing of Mr. H, he tells a horrible lie. It's like what Matthew Arnold called motiveless malignity. There's no reason to lie, but he lies. And then here, this boy they're looking for somebody wearing white sneakers. They find a boy who is wearing white sneakers, who is clearly not the same person, because the guy who says it's not him is the guy he gave a headbutt. So, where are your morals, 2 of you? You first, please.
It's not my morals, it's Winston's morals that are skewed. But no, you have to do, as Chimeka said, you have to sometimes give bad people the stage and let them do what they do best, because, it makes for an interesting read, and also it makes us check our morals. You wouldn't ask me that question if we weren't faced with an immoral man, yeah? So that's the point.
I don't believe you, but go ahead, Chimeka.
So, you're asking me about morals, and we live in a very immoral country, and it's a bit...
No spoilers, but it goes south very, very fast,
Yes.
And there's no reason for it.
So so the morals are like in the story. I'm hoping that writing the stories, I try to write the stories without judgment, but I'm hoping that you can see, you can tell what I think about certain things, so yeah. So my morals are in the story, so to speak, hidden there somewhere. If you can find it, fine. If you can't find it, I used to be.
Thank you. So we're going to take some questions, but before we go, while we're getting ready, we have 10 minutes, so I don't know how many that will be. They say first books are autobiographical, largely so. Is it true for you?
No. I'll just say no.
Hard woman. Okay. First question, please. Okay, you, sir. I can't see you. Somebody here?
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My question is for Chimeka. I have 2 questions, first for Chimeka and then for both panelists. So the question is in line with present view. We see what Sangest has done with Crow, and I want to ask, being Niger Delta, now we get Pidgin. So do you have any plans to do something similar in future works? That's the first question. Then secondly, I think a lot of people will agree with me that your cover is like something that pops. Once you see the cover, Broken People's Playlist, the cassette and everything, you're like, back to when we used to listen to MPs and all that. So my question is, how much, because I know book contracts differ, so how much creative power did you have for your cover? And that also goes to Sangest. And if you didn't have, who can we appreciate for the great works that your covers are? Thank you.
Okay. So I think I'll answer the last question first. The covers, for this cover, I had so the cover is not my idea. Well, part of it was sort of, so to speak, but I can't take credit for it. There's a guy called Anderson Oria. He does covers for Masobe, my publishers. But we had a lot of arguments about the cover. I remember, like, we were almost at some point, me and my publisher were almost not talking, because we're like, I want this cover, blah 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 blah. And there was a time when the cover was made, we argued a bit, right? And I now said, look, I wanted they should change the colors to a setting, so kind of what it was. And Anderson came and Anderson was cool, and he did it. So yes, with the other cover for there's a version of this coming out next year. The rest of the world, apart from Africa, I also had some creative control, but the publishers also said, publishers said, we have an artist, and this is what the artist has done, and all that. I had a bit of creative control, but not as much as me almost holding Otuke's shirts and Anderson's shirts. It wasn't like that. Pigeon. I would always, where I grew up, even if I know how to speak English, I would always, and if you talk to me for any period of time, I always put Pidgin English a bit. I would always continue to write like that because it's just natural to me, and I'm not going to apologize for it, and and I'm not going to change it. Hope not. God forbid.
Celeste, about your cover.
Right. So the cover of the previous editions, I did have a lot of input in that because they sent me 6 options and I hated all of them. They just, and I guess that's the thing about being published first in the US by persons not familiar with diasporic culture, let's put it that way. Read between the lines, but they just didn't get it, right? The covers that they had presented me with. And eventually we got to that cover of the other edition, which I like. I loved this. I didn't have to ask for a second option. I loved it right away. I felt it really shows the kind of dark but beautiful vibe of the book and of where I live. So yeah, I can take no credit for this cover.
Thank you. Amin?
Hi, my name is Amin, and my question is to Celeste. I thought I'd exhausted all the questions I wanted to ask you about this book. So, Miss Ivy, the main character of Sainte Humanité, is a recurring character. She's my favorite one, very eccentric, always wearing a fur coat, even during the heat. Her POV is very interesting because she's reliable and she's unreliable at the same time. So my question is, how does this reliability dilemma contribute to what you wanted to say about Trinidad?
That is an excellent question. Because in Trinidad, as I said before, my first audience in my mind was always my people. And every town in Trinidad, everywhere, every village, every family, there is what we call a tanti, from the French tante for aunt, right? And the tanti is exactly what you said in every village. She is a force to be reckoned with. She is the voice of law. She's the voice of history, whatever, but she's also so unreliable because, as generations go along, they kind of become stuck in their ways. So I feel like that unreliability dynamic is built in to the character being a tanti. And I felt like Trinidadians would understand that. It might be a little bit difficult, well, not so obvious and non-Trinidadian, but the good thing is there's so many characters and so many POVs in this book coming at you that I don't know if you can depend on anybody's take. So Miss Ivy's unreliability is balanced off by other people's, I would say, reliability.
Questions? Okay. 3 minutes to go. So make it short, quick.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is John. So I have a question for both of you. So you both created a collection of short stories and are both writers of a certain age, right? So my question is, what is the distance between the time of the conception of the story to publication? Secondly, what is your writing process like? Do you plot? Do you just write off the bat? I know you're inspired by the music, so do you listen to music and then plot the story, or just listen to music and as it goes, write? I am interested in your writing process. And thirdly, sorry, so, okay, let's leave it at that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you first. Do you plot or you write?
Right. The timeline. I started writing these stories in around 2014, and I wrote the last story in 2019. So that's 5 years of getting all the stories out. It never started out, the book didn't start out as a collection. It just started off as one story, and then I kind of realized, hey, I could link these. So it was sort of an afterthought to link them into a collection. And once I did, I had a collection of 6 stories, and I saw, when you see a thing, you can figure out what's missing. Then I spliced in a couple more. So yeah, I would say 5 years. 5 years to the book being finished, and 1 more year for it to be accepted for publication.
Jamaica. Do you plot? Okay.
So everything she said, the same timeline, same process about starting with some single stories and putting them together. Then the process for writing, I think I talked about it behind the author's notes. It's just I have the kernel of the idea in my mind, and it's just there subconsciously, and a song or a couple of songs will just unlock it, and I start writing, and it helps me. Oh, sorry. Oh, I'll start again. So I was saying that everything she said, the first part of the question. Then the second part regarding the process was, for me, I believe I had the ideas for the stories in my head subconsciously, and I listened to music. Many of these stories weren't planned like that. I'll just listen to a song or something, or catch a lyric or something, and it would just unlock it, and I would write it, and so that was the process for this book. Yeah.
Can we take one more question? Okay. So I want to thank Lola Shene. Okay. Yes. This is the time.
Hi.
You have 7 seconds.
Oh, hi, I'm Iowa. Who are your biggest literary inspirations? Both of you.
Inspiration.
For me, one of the first people I always call is a gentleman called Chuma Wokolo. He's to me, he's the greatest, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, living Nigerian writer. Obviously, his choices are subjective. So that's him. And I'll call Ben Elton, the English writer, for teaching me how to write with humor, tackling various serious topics with humor. And so those two for now, Oh, Zukiswa is here. I hope she's here. Zukiswa, yeah. So I always put the people I like. I always say their names. Always give them props. So yeah.
Celeste, want to go?
I said Naipaul earlier, yeah. In terms of contemporary writers, Zadie Smith, Jhumpa Lahiri, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, and actually a big influence on writing this book was a South African author called Alex Laguma. Yeah, Walk in the Night. You see it now, right? You see it. Yes. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, fun facts.
Yeah.
Alex Laguma, Walk in the Night.
Yeah.
That story, when I finished in the city, I realized that, because it was one of those stories that's always stuck with me, like Walk in the Night.
Tattoo Marks and Nails? Okay.
No, the one, Walk in the Night, the main one.
Uncle Willoughby.
Yeah, Yellow Boy or something like whatever.
Uncle Willoughby.
That when I finished writing In the City, that one I read, I realized that, like there was some sort of connection between both stories, because in both stories there was a chase with police people. So subconsciously influenced by Alex Lagoma. But
Cool. Thank you, Celeste. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lola, for getting us here together.
Thank you so much to this glorious participants in this book chat. Tony Khan, Chimeka Garrick, Celeste Mohammed. Please give them a round of applause. Thank you.